Okay, y'all. Hello. Hi. How are you doing? I hope you had such a good July. It went by so freaking fast, and I feel like for no reason. Like, for no reason. Who told you to go by that fast? Anyways, I hope you guys are having a great freaking month. It's been a whirlwind. I read, I think, 24. Let's do an actual count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 books. So out of 24 books, 3 were DNFs. 1 I have not finished yet, but it will be done today. And today is the last day. I put my watch on upside down and I'm literally just now realizing that. So fun, so fresh. It's the 31st of July. So it's the last day of July. I will be finishing it today. That is, let's just go ahead and talk about it. The Match by Sarah Adams. I'm absolutely adoring this book. I'm almost halfway through it, and I, like I said, will be finishing this today because it is just the sweetest, most wholesome book. If you don't know, Sarah Adams writes the most wholesome, heartwarming romance stories. She doesn't really have any spice in her books. I know the rule book had a little bit of spice. She has as a trigger warning in there, which I've heard. I don't know if that's true. I haven't read the rule book yet, but this follows a girl who matches people with service dogs, and she gets an email from this guy, just like a really funky kind of like weird email, just to like set up a meeting with this guy's daughter and her so that they can get the daughter matched for a service dog. Well, she gets there and she finds out that not only does this guy have no idea who she is, he also didn't send the email. His daughter sent it, like faked. Oh my gosh, it was so adorable. That's so adorable. Love the kid. The dog in this, it's so good. She has epilepsy and it's the same thing that his daughter has, and so like there's an immediate connection there. I absolutely adore this book. I know this is going to be like either a 4 or 5 stars for me. It's that good. I'm loving it so far. The audiobook is amazing. So that's that. That's the only book that I have not like actually finished that I loved this month. So just wanted to get that out of the way. Okay, let's talk about the DNFs of the month, okay? Number 1, we had the writing retreat. If you don't know, July was the month of thrillers for me. I read very few romances this month. Most of them were either thrillers or like dark romances on accident. Don't talk about it. Anyways, the writing retreat. I DNF'd this at 4%. Now listen, you might be thinking, Jolie, what? Listen, I know, okay, but here's my excuse, here's my reason. Everything that I had heard about this book was bad. I had never heard anybody give the writing retreat like a good, nobody that I trust at least. Everybody that I know did not really like this book. And by 4%, I just really was not enjoying it. I didn't like any of the characters. I didn't really like the writing. And so I was like, look, if everything that I had heard by the people that I know and trust who have kind of the same taste as me, if they don't like this book and I'm already not enjoying it, I don't see myself actually enjoying it. So I put it down because it's just one of those things that like I'm not going to force myself to read a book that I'm probably not going to like anyways. And I made an executive decision and I put it down. It will be going somewhere, either on my Pango or a giveaway, who knows. The next 2 DNFs were also romances. I DNF'd A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. I think this also came out in July, and I DNF'd it with like, I think 100 pages, maybe less to go. It felt so flat to me. Like the characters felt super flat, super fake, and just like, I don't know how to explain it. So it follows this girl who is she's supposed to go on this trip with her friend, but her friend bails at the last minute. So she ends up going by herself. Well, while she's going on this trip, she's driving there. Something happens to her car. She ends up getting stuck in this town, and this town ends up being the town from one of her favorite romance series, one of her romance book series, whatever. She's like starting to realize that like she knows about these people and like she's met them before, and so obviously it's kind of like the setup for this book should have been so fun, and like it seemed like it would have been something that was right up my alley. It was not. I love Ashley Poston's writing, which is the funny thing. I love her writing. It's very lyrical, it's really pretty. If I hadn't been listening to the audiobook, I would have been annotating quite a bit. I didn't like it. I wasn't having fun with it, and so I think it probably also was that this was, I think, one of the last romance books that I read before I took a break from romance. So it could have been that. I might go back and reread it to like give it another shot. But as far as my feelings on it now, it was a no-go for me. It was a no-go for me. And I feel really sad about that because everybody that like I know and trust had really loved this book. It was not for me. So obviously, like with the books that I DNF, because I don't finish them, I'm not going to rate them. So if you're looking for a rating, there is not going to be one, just because it's not fair to rate a book that you have not read all the way. So this one, okay, I DNF this one for a petty reason, but like it makes sense in my head. Hopefully it makes sense to you. Once More with Feeling by Elisa Suzman. And here's the thing, okay? If you know me, you know this. I don't like books where singing occurs. I sound so petty saying it. I just don't like singing. I don't like it. I don't like it. I can't do it. I couldn't do it in public. Like if in real life, if somebody sang, if my fiance, I love him to absolute death, if he sang to me, I'm not saying we would break up. I'm simply saying I don't know if I could ever look at him the same way, A, or B, continue to be, no, I'm kidding. Oh, but okay. Listen, I didn't like it. I don't like, and the thing is this is not something that I will fault the book for. That's the thing. I'm not gonna fault the book for this, because if I had read the synopsis or if I had just looked at the microphones, I could have told you that like it's not a book that I'm gonna enjoy. So it's not a fault of the book. I think if you like this kind of like Glee type feel, you might really, really enjoy this. Wasn't a fan favorite, so I think I DNF'd that one at like 10%. Side note, if you're wondering where my jingle is, I broke it. So I have to take it back to James Avery. Okay, next up on the list, let's go through the romances that I read for this month, because I read a good amount. The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. If you watch my catching up on recent releases video, this is one of the books that I read for that, and I enjoyed it. The problem with this one is that I read it right after Bridesmaids for Hire. Let's go ahead and pull her out too, actually. So Bridesmaids for Hire, I read first, and then I read The Paradise Problem. I would not recommend doing that, because here's the thing, these plot lines are so similar. This follows a girl who meets a guy, they get fake married for benefits, like for living on campus or something like that. He does not tell his family that they are not married. He ends up needing her to go on this trip with him in order to save his inheritance, but his family is terrible. His parents are terrible. And yeah, there's a lot riding on this trip, and like on his parents believing that they're married, and where they're going, it's very tropical. It's on vacation, so they're like going to this, I can't remember where it is, but this island or whatever, and they're having to fake be married. Okay, enjoyed it. I think I rated it like a 3 or 4 stars. If I had to go back and look at it now, it'd probably be like a 3.5. It was good, could have been great. But then we have Bridesmaids for Hire. Okay, she is a wedding planner. She like helps plan weddings, takes herself out on this trip, on this vacation, okay, because she needs a vacation, so she takes herself on a vacation. She ends up meeting this guy there who just so happens to be her brother's best friend, who she hates. They do not get along whatsoever. They do not like each other. Well, she ends up telling his boss that she is his date, or like they're dating, because his boss is this really important guy who he's trying to impress to get like this promotion. Boss's daughter is getting married. So she ends up like inserting herself like, hey, I could help your daughter out with the wedding. And she ends up doing that. She girl bossed her way into that one. I hate that I just did that. Delete that from your brain, please and thank you. She ends up, yeah, like kind of just sliding down in there and being like, oh, I could definitely help you out, help your daughter out for the wedding. They're having to fake date the entire time. These two books were giving very much the same. I liked Bridesmaids for Hire more than I liked The Paradise Problem. I think if I had read The Paradise Problem, like now, I would probably enjoy it way more. So take this with a grain of salt, to be so honest with you. It just felt like 2 stories back to back on top of me not realizing that I just was not in the mood for romance, I guess, if that makes sense, was the reason why this one got rated so low. This one, 4.5. Absolutely adored it. I love Megan Quinn's. Megan Quinn's books always hit, to be so honest with you, so it's just, yeah, it is what it is. Then I also was kind of in my Western era this month. Off to the Races by Elsie Silver. I'd read Flawless, and that was it. But I wanted to get into the Gold Rush Ranch series, because the Chestnut Springs and the Gold Rush Ranch series, they kind of interconnect. And you do get that a little bit in this book. This follows a girl. Her name is, what's her name? Billy. Okay, let me get my brain in order. She goes to apply for a job on this ranch. It's Vaughn's ranch. He brought this guy in to help him with the ranch, to kind of help him like take over things and make sure things are running smoothly. Well, this guy really loves Billy. Like they have a really good relationship, kind of like a father-daughter type relationship. And so he is like, hey, we need to hire Billy. She is amazing. She's great. Right? It's kind of like an enemies to lovers type deal, like a rivals to lovers. They don't get along, okay? They don't like each other. He's really rude. She's very sassy, snappy, not dealing with his rich boy BS. You know what I mean? I absolutely adored it. I absolutely adored it. I love these characters. They're so witty, and there's something about Elsie Silver's books that are just so visceral and real, and her writing is beautiful. Like, her writing is so good, and I enjoyed it. I had so much fun with it. The tension between them two, to die for. I will 100% be picking up the rest of the Gold Rush Ranch series because I think I'm still in my Western romance era, so gotta do that. Okay, then I also read Night Shift by Annie Crown, and okay, this is the opposite of how I was feeling with The Paradise Problem. I read this after reading Saving Noah, and if you have read Saving Noah, you probably know what I'm about to say. That was one of the most, I'll talk about it in depth in a second, but Saving Noah, after reading that, I needed something light and fluffy and just something that was going to get me out of the mental spiral I was in after reading Saving Noah. And so I picked up this book. Here's the thing. Night Shift did what it was supposed to do. Okay, she was fluffy. There was no thoughts going. Smooth brain. That's literally the only thing that I was thinking about while reading this book, okay? It follows this girl who is a bookworm, okay? It follows this girl who's a bookworm, and she ends up one night meeting this basketball player. He's like a really famous basketball player at their college. They just end up hitting it off, and they start talking and whatever. This, that, and the other. You get what I'm saying. It's a very much like straightforward sport boy, shy bookworm girl. They get together. That's really all that it was. It was very much just spice and a basic kind of story, if that makes sense. I read this book at the perfect time because I think if I had read this book at any other point in time, like if I was heavily into romance books and I wasn't just looking for fluff, I probably would have rated this book a lot lower. Okay, this book is a 3-star for me. It was good, it was fine. Like I said, it just did what it needed to do for the kind of mood that I was in. I would say if you're in the mood for something light, fluffy, literally no thoughts, just kind of spice and sports, there you go. Into my favorite reads of July, literally like 5-star. I would read these books over and over again. Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, no, let's do that. Let's do that. I wasn't talking or anything. I mess with my own self. Anyways, I read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Listen, it was my first Abby Jimenez book that I'd ever read, and I adore this woman. I adore this woman. I love this woman. I am in love with Abby Jimenez. Anyways, this follows a woman who comes to this small town like on accident. She's just kind of like going through after a funeral. She ends up needing help because her car ends up in a ditch, okay? Her car ends up in a ditch. She needs help getting it out. This guy rolls by and he's like, hey, like, do you need help? And she tries to be like, no, I'm fine. I'll wait for the tow truck. And he's like, yeah, if you're waiting for the one tow that we have in town, he's sitting at the bar right now. So I don't think he'll be getting to you anytime soon. I can help you out though. I have a truck. Let's go. Which, by the way, brings me to a point. Any MMC that owns a truck, lifted truck, that is one of the following makes: Ford, Chevy, always a Chevy, and we'll throw in a Ram. In books, it's okay. In real life, not so much. I'm immediately sad. No, like I'm immediately sad. Because did I mention that the MMC in this, he drives a lifted truck that also is blacked out, tinted out. Okay. Now that I've said my piece on that, back to this synopsis. He takes her truck, he takes his truck, helps her out. He's the town mayor and everybody just like loves him. This whole town is such a tight-knit community. Like they're just so good. Everything that I crave. I want a small town where I know everybody, where everybody knows me. I want that. I live in Houston. I don't know my neighbors, let alone somebody on the other side of town. Okay, anyways. Yeah, so this is just like really close-knit community, such a tight-knit town. And so this girl like comes through and she's older than him by almost like 10 years or something like that. And obviously their relationship has some boundaries because she is a doctor. He is a woodworker that also owns a like bed and breakfast in this town. And so she like keeps coming back and she's like, I like you so much, but I also can't be dating somebody still in their 20s. They just go back and forth quite a bit, and it's so funny. It is so freaking hilarious. Daniel, if there ever was a golden retriever MMC who is the standard, it would be Daniel. And hear me when I say that. I don't say that lightly, okay? Talk about white boy of the month, white boy of the year with this one, okay? Daniel is on another level. I absolutely adore him. That one was a 5-star read, if you couldn't tell. If you couldn't tell. Next 5-star read of the month, Next of Kin by Hannah Bodum Young. Oh, listen. I know I need therapy, okay? You don't have to tell me after the sentence that I'm about to say. He has a buzz cut. He has anger issues, admitted anger issues. He goes to therapy. Like, not for her. He just goes to therapy. When I tell you I was sat, like, within 20 pages of meeting him, 10 pages, upon the first page of meeting him, I was in love in a way that I had never been in love before. And honestly, I still stand by this. Okay, he has a buzz cut. Listen, she described him as Prison Break. Okay. Remember what I just said about Daniel being White Boy of the Year? Listen, different kind of White Boy of the Year. Definitely, could possibly, like, it would make sense for him to have just gone out of jail, White Boy of the Year. That makes sense. I love him. The synopsis of the story, you ask. Oh, I'm so happy to tell you. Okay, so it follows this girl, and she ends up getting this call one day, literally within the first, like, 10 pages. She gets a call, and it's like, hey, so your mom, who you don't talk to, and who basically, like, puts you through the CPS system, yeah, she just had another daughter, and you are the only relative that could actually, like, take care of her. Do you want a kid? And she's 24, almost 25, my age, and she's like, do I want a child? No, but this is the only family that, like, I'll ever actually be able to get close to, so 100% I will take her. And she has some medical issues because she was born prematurely, and so she's having to kind of like go through all of these hoops in order to make sure that she's a healthy little baby. Well, she also does not meet the requirements for the financial situation in order to be able to take the kid home. So there is this program that's Next Up. It's called Next Up, right? Him and his brother, who's deaf, they move into her house, and her dad's deaf, and so she, like, can sign and everything, which, oh, that's... If there's one thing about Hannah Bodum Young, is that she's gonna make me want to cry. She's gonna make me fall in love with the MMC. Listen, he is the exact opposite of Bo, but written in the same font. Does that make sense? They're like two completely polar opposites, but same fonts, and I love them. So the next couple of romances I did read, but they were either romantasy or dark romances. So let's just go over those really quickly, shall we? First one that I read was Hello Heathens. This was a part of a 24-hour readathon that I did. I'm not sure if, I think this video will come out before that one does, but I read this. I absolutely adored it. I absolutely love this book. This is kind of like magical realism. It follows this girl named Fallon, and she has been writing to her grandpa, who basically, like, asks her, like, hey, could you come and help me and take care of me, because I am struggling health-wise and I just need some help. So she comes and she's, like, helping him or whatever, but then something happens, and then she tries to leave, and she realizes, oh, this town is not letting me leave. I have to stay. Okay, so she has to stay. So she stays, and she ends up meeting this guy named Julian. Well, Julian's a part of the Hollow Heathens, who is a part of a group of witches who are cursed. Yeah, it's exactly as you sound. They are the reason why the whole town is in fear. Like, they scare the entire town, right? Except her and Julian love each other. Obviously they love each other, and I really loved that for them. I had so much fun with this book, you guys. It's on Kindle Unlimited, and I listened to the audiobook as I always do. Absolutely freaking adored this book. This kick-started my want for fall. October, give it to me right freaking now. I need it to be cold. I need it to be 50 degrees or less. That's cold to me, by the way. Don't say anything. I need it to be 50 degrees or less, but not lower than 30. Between 40 and 50 is great. I'm gonna stop. You know what I'm saying, though? Like, I absolutely adored this book, and it made me want all of the creepy October fall vibes. Rating, you ask. 5 stars. 4 stars. 4.5. I'm gonna rate it a 4.5, but I really liked it. Then we also had Death's Obsession by Venus St. Graves. Listen, I read this just because I wanted something quick to get through. It's a little novella. It's literally like, I think 160 pages or something like that. I talked about this somewhere. I think I talked about it in my wrap up for my 24-hour readathon. If I had literally just taken a look at the title and taken half a brain cell to think about the title, I could have guessed what the entire story was about. Death is literally the Grim Reaper. Is that the Grim Reaper? He's obsessed with her. He's obsessed with her. And, yeah. It's scary to be in my brain sometimes. He's obsessed with her. She's in a toxic relationship, and Death obviously does not like that. No. So, she ends up falling in love with Death. Yeah, he's like, just like so sweet. He's a sweetheart. He's such a sweetheart. The Grim Reaper secretly has a soft spot for her, and he, like, at one point makes her a candlelit dinner. I didn't love this book. I did not love this book. I rate it 2 stars. Okay, listen, it's not because it's necessarily bad. It's more so, it's not really for me. It was not something that, like, if I had known what it was about before I picked it up, I probably wouldn't have picked it up. Or maybe I would have. I think because of the cover, I was looking at the cover, it was giving me the Raven vibes by Edgar Allan Poe. And so I was kind of expecting those vibes. And it did honestly kind of deliver. Just not in the way that I was hoping that it was going to. So not a favorite of mine, but it's quick. If you just want a book for your reading goal, definitely might as well pick this one up. It's also on Kindle Unlimited. But yeah, it just was not something that like I would find myself going to reach for. He was a little intense. Obviously, it's a 160-page book and he's obsessed with her. So it's like right off the bat. You know what I mean? Then I also read Crossed by Emily McIntyre. This is the 5th book in the Never After series. I think there's one more book coming out called Hexed. I think that's like a Little Mermaid retelling or something like that. This is the 5th book. This one I have very conflicted feelings about because, well, this and a couple others that I'm going to talk about, I have conflicted feelings about. Because listen to this. Listen, I am a Christian girly, okay? I love Jesus. I love the Lord, okay? Really, really dark books do make me kind of uncomfortable. It's a spirit thing, you know what I mean? Just like, it's very uncomfy, okay? And it has to be done right in order for it to not feel uncomfy. This priest who sees this woman who is a dancer, and he like immediately is obsessed with her. He sees her and he is obsessed with her. She will be his, you know what I mean? And like, for those vibes, I loved those vibes specifically, but like I enjoyed it. I enjoyed these characters more than I have the rest of the Never After characters, just because these felt the most fleshed out to me, if that makes sense, and I enjoyed them the most. Then I also read Her Soul to Take by Harley the Roe. Adrian, if you're watching this, thank you for sending this to me. So sweet. He actually sent me the whole trilogy. Again, feel very conflicted about this because this is a story between a demon and a regular schmegular girl who is a ghost, like YouTuber, like she is a ghost hunter, basically. The book, for what it is, I think it was written well. I think if you like storylines like this, you would definitely like this book. It just was not something that, again, like I would necessarily go and pick up. The reason why I picked it up was because I was in the October-y, kind of like autumnal fall vibes, and I wanted books that felt like Hollow Heathens to me, because like that's kind of my sweet spot with dark stuff, where it's like, you know, you get magic, it's like witches, you know what I mean? That to me is kind of my sweet spot. This was a little too dark for me, if that makes sense. It's a little too spicy, a little too dark for me. So knowing that, I feel like I probably won't pick up the rest of the trilogy. I don't know. I feel bad rating it, but it was probably, it's a 3-star. It's a 3. I'm not going to give it any lower than that because I genuinely don't think that the book deserves anything lower than that. I think that my issues with it are my issues with it. And I think, again, if you like storylines like this, you would probably absolutely love this book. It's just not something that, like I said, I tend to gravitate towards. So for those reasons, those are my thoughts. Then we have Lovely Bad Things by Trisha Wolfe. This one was like Her Soul to Take, but just not quite as... Her Soul to Take was like this one on steroids, I guess, if that makes sense. It follows a girl named Halen, who is a crime scene investigator, basically, and she meets this guy on one of the crime scenes, and he's a professor at a college where like this incident takes place. And she immediately, intuitively is like, this man has something to do with this incident, and I know it. And so she testifies against him. Ends up being like the sole reason why he gets put into an insane asylum, because there is no evidence that he did it, but it's just her feeling. She has a feeling that that he had something to do with it. And so while they couldn't put him like in prison because there was no evidence for it, he got put away into an insane asylum. And so at some point down the line, she ends up needing his help because he is an expert in all things like Nietzsche. You know who I'm talking about. He's an expert in that, and he's also an expert into the occult. And again, I enjoyed this book more than I enjoyed Her Soul to Take. Yeah, there's some spiritual battles going on in this one too. So again, kind of conflicting, being like a Christian girly. Would I recommend the Christian girlies to read it? No. But I do think this was more up my alley just because it had more to do with like the crime scene investigator type stuff, I guess, if that makes sense, where like you're investigating these crimes, you're not perpetuating these crimes, if that makes sense. So for that reason, I think was probably why I enjoyed it more than Her Soul to Take, just because we got more of like the police side of things. That tends to intrigue me more, if that makes sense. So then I've read one YA coming of age story. I read The Truth About Horses by Christy Cashman. And this was really, really good. I did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did, just because it was a YA book, and YA books can tend to be hit or miss just depending on how the author writes the mindset of the kid. So this book follows a girl, and she has had a rough go of it recently. There are some things that happen that are tragic, and she ends up, because of these events, she lost her horse. Like they couldn't keep her horse, and so they had to sell the horse at auction, and her dad sold like their whole business, and she's really devastated by this loss. And so she starts acting out. She meets this man named Wes, who is Native American, and he does not speak. He does not say anything. He chooses to not speak at all. He ends up basically like they form this really wholesome, not father-daughter I would say, but like kind of big brother relationship where he's helping her with things and she's also helping him through things. And it's just such a like heartwarming story. And yeah, she doesn't have a solid relationship with her dad, and things at home are just generally really rocky, and so the only place that she finds solace is helping Wes on his ranch. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. I loved it. Rated it 5 stars. It was, yeah, that's the first YA book that I've read in a long time that I rated 5 stars. So now we're getting into my thriller reads of the month. I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 thrillers this month, which is pretty high. Normally I don't read that many, but we're gonna start with one of my favorites of the month. Well, yeah, one of my favorites of the month. The Maidens, Alex Michaelides. I don't know how to say his name. You know, you get it. Anyways, this is for my Greek mythology girlies. If you love Greek mythology, you would absolutely adore this book. If you don't love Greek mythology, I'm not a huge Greek mythology girl, so I was not sure that I was going to enjoy this book. I loved it. I loved it so much, okay? I loved it. I had so much fun with this. The audiobook is amazing. Reading it physically, really good. I could see myself rereading this. I don't tend to want to reread thrillers often. I think the only thrillers that like I've reread personally are Stephen King books. I would reread this over and over again. I absolutely love it. I love his writing too. Like, just like he has a very particular writing style where everything feels so real, so visceral, and you feel exactly what the main character is feeling. Absolutely love it. Then, okay, let's go to my next like 10-star read of this month, because I had a 10-star read of this month. Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. Now listen to me and listen to me well. This was in my reading thrillers for a week or something like that. I absolutely adored this book, and every time I talk about this book, I get like a 50-50 response. Half of everybody are saying that they hate it. Half of everybody are saying that they absolutely adore it. I'm of the bank that I absolutely adored this book, okay? It was a 5-star. I absolutely loved it. I had so much fun. If you want to see me reading it, like I said, I read this in my reading thriller video that I recently posted. So freaking good. I would reread that book often. Now on to a book that I would not reread. Don't Let Her Stay by Nicola Sanders. I have never read a book that made me so infuriated, but also kind of gave me heart palpitations. This felt like The Housemaid, and also oddly enough like The Last Word. Like the feeling that I had of like, oh my gosh, what is happening, that I got from The Last Word, kind of mixed with the storyline from The Housemaid. That would be this one. That would be this one. Very much enjoyed it. Well, I can't say I enjoyed it. I could say it put me in a anger rampage that I wanted to throw this book across the room quite a few times, but I still enjoyed it. I gave it a 3 stars. It was good, but you could have been better. All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. Okay. I have very conflicted feelings about this book because, well, not about this book, more so about this author, because I read Flicker in the Dark. Was that what it's called? You probably know what I'm talking about. Read that, DNF'd it, did not like it, skimmed it, the writing felt bad. This, I actually enjoyed. I enjoyed it more. I gotta give this book a 4 stars, I will say, because I enjoyed it. The audiobook was really good. It definitely redeemed Stacey Willingham for me, because after Flicker in the Dark, I was not convinced I was going to be reading any more of her books. I enjoyed this one. Then I also read The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. This one, again, was a little bit more conflicting because there was no thrilling aspect to me. This one felt more of like a mystery, I guess, if that makes sense. And I do tend to like the heart palpitating, like, what's gonna happen aspect of thrillers for me. This did not have that. I enjoyed it. It was very much more of like a slower kind of burn with the thrillers, and that it took a while for things to really start to happen. And I am finding that, like, I like that in some thrillers. I like it where it's like you're just kind of putting pieces together, you're getting crumbles of things, and you're trying to like figure out how the puzzle pieces fit before everything breaks out into chaos. I very much enjoy that. This one I would probably rate like a 3 stars. Okay, not because it was bad, just because, like I said, it wasn't really thrilling. Plot twist was, it was okay. It was good, could have been great. I need to stop referencing that. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. Next, I also read The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. I very much enjoyed this one. If you've read The Wife Upstairs by Frida McFadden, or Verity by Colleen Hoover, this is similar to both of those. This is my favorite of them all. 5 stars though, really enjoyed that one. Okay, Stark Turn Left into Saving Noah by Lucinda Berry. Okay, how do I explain this book? This is not a thriller. If you go into it expecting it to be a thriller because you've heard of Lucinda Berry, take that thought right out of your mind, throw it in the garbage can, because it's not a thriller, okay? It is a psychological, like, what would I do if I was in that position, but also a gut-wrenching story, okay? I didn't rate it. I'm not going to rate this book just because I feel like a storyline like this, why would I rate it, I guess, if that makes sense? Because a lot of people go through this every day, victims, plenty of children who are victims of this, and yeah, it would feel really weird to rate this book, so I'm not going to, but it just was really heavy. It was really heavy. I don't necessarily recommend this book. I am happy that I read it, question mark, but that one was a doozy. That one was a doozy. The last one we have here is Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. This one was my favorite of the Riley Sager books that I have read so far, because this felt the most like a Stephen King novel to me, if that makes sense. His writing style in this book felt like a Stephen King book, and Stephen King is my favorite thriller horror writer of all time. I love his books, will forever love his books. Grew up listening to his books. Okay, that's my spiel on Stephen King. This felt like that to me, and so because of that, I automatically really enjoyed it. However, I will say, if you're going into this book expecting it to be like a heart palpitating thriller, I probably wouldn't do that. This read more of like a cozy mystery to me, and no harm, no foul. Like, it wasn't a bad thing whatsoever. I just think if I'd gone into it with the expectation of it being a cozy mystery, I probably would have enjoyed it more, because I was hoping for something like actually really thrilling to happen. I feel like I was waiting the whole time. I enjoyed this very, very much. I would probably rate it like a 4 stars, to be so honest with you, because I think rating it from the lens of a cozy mystery, I enjoyed it a lot more. Rating it from the lens of a thriller, less so. Does that make sense? So I enjoyed it. I would absolutely recommend it. It was very, very good. Those are all of the books that I read this month. I'm not gonna even try to stack them. Literally just talking for that long exhausted me, floored me. I'm done talking. I feel like I've been doing it. I feel like I've been yapping for so freaking long. Okay, anyways, so that's that on that. I read quite a few. I had a pretty good reading month this month, to be so honest with you. I enjoyed this reading month. It was interesting. It was not a normal one by any means. Normally I read a lot more romances, but like I said, I was just in a romance rut and I did not want to pick up any, and I feel like my fantasy era is coming on, so I'm thinking after the match, I'm going to be picking up some kind of fantasy book. But yeah, that's it. What did you guys rate this month? What were your 5-star reads? What was your favorite read of the month? Go ahead and let me know, because I really want to know. I want to hear about it. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Like I said, I'm so sorry for talking for so long, but I read quite a few books. So I love y'all so much, and I will see y'all in the next one.